I'm Belinda Goodrich.
And I'm Brandy Bean. Welcome to
See How I Did That? This is your opportunity to get engaged and inspired by our guests who have overcome obstacles to achieve success.
Real women,
Real talk,
and real inspiration. Your transformation starts now.
I'm Belinda Goodrich,
And I'm Brandy Bean.
and this is See How I Did That?
On today's episode, we got to speak with Amber Hurdle, and I'm just going to say bombshell powerhouse right here. So she is the CEO of Amber Hurdle Consulting and the author of Bombshell Business Women.
Which just totally makes sense.
Yes.
She also, in 2019, was listed as one of 40 under 40 by the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce.
Mm-hmm.
And she just... Wow, what a story,
absolutely.
and so empowering. I love her velvet machete approach to change management.
Mm-hmm. I love that she talks about being a teen mom. too.
Yeah, and this is a theme we see with a lot of our guests, is that beautiful transparency.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that was something her and I shared in common. I actually don't really talk about that much, that I was a teen mom.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt so good to see how she just owned it. And
Exactly.
it wasn't an obstacle, it wasn't a hindrance, it wasn't an excuse. It was just, this is just part of her story.
Yeah, absolutely. And she talks a lot about, the wagon of experiences that you bring with you. And that was so powerful to me, because no matter what journey you've taken,
Mm-hmm.
and there's going to be ups and downs, like that wagon full of experiences is going to help you in some way or another, just how you look at it.
Exactly, yeah. I think there was something else you liked about her too.
Oh, yes. She is a hot wing snob. I love it.
Anything with food.
Anything with food. I'm a
Anything with
foodie.
food. And of course, Nashville's one of our favorite
It
areas,
is.
and so knowing some of the work that she did there, that we talk about a little bit in the interview and stuff. But yeah, this is a great interview.
It is. You don't want to miss it. So stay tuned for Amber Hurdle. We are here today with Amber Hurdle. Thank you so much for joining us on See How I Did That. We're so excited to get to know you and hear your story. So Amber, if you would just give us a little bit about you and your background.
Well, the 20-second version is when I was 16 years old, I got knocked up, and now I have a rock star life, and I'm just super happy. And of course, there was quite the journey that I'm still on in between, but some of the lessons and some of the ways of life that I've adopted that weren't necessarily part of my DNA, I can trace back to going through that with my daughter, alongside my daughter, and eventually my son. And I just love talking about it, because I want other people to know that no matter what decisions you've made in life or whatever's happened to you, because it doesn't always fall on our decision making,
Right.
you can make your life whatever you want.
So, when I was looking and learning more about you, which very impressive, you're just an incredible businesswoman. I love the 40 under 40 for Nashville. I mean,
Thank you.
and I
I'm
think
very
it's-
proud of that.
Yeah, you should be, because I think as a businesswoman, stepping in and inspiring. And I have 3 daughters, 3 granddaughters, 3 grandsons, and I look at my granddaughter specifically, and I'm like, I want them to know they can be business owners, they can be business leaders, they can be making changes out there. So our first point of connection is the fact that you and I walked an incredibly similar path, which was eye-opening to me when I started reading your book, which was we both got knocked up at 16. And I think
We don't encourage it, but you can come out on the other side.
out of it. Yes. However, know that if you've been in that situation, it's not a death sentence.
Your dreams aren't over because you hit a speed bump, because that's all it is. It's
Right.
just going to slow you down. It's not going to halt life for you.
Yeah. And now let me ask you about that. When that happened, because I know some of our listeners have struggled. They've gone through things, maybe decisions that they made, or like you say, sometimes events that have happened. How were you handled from a society perspective when it became obvious you were with child at a young age?
I got the looks. You'd be at the grocery store and it's like, oh, she's one of those. I giggle because I'm still, to this day, I'm friends with the woman who was over this program, but the local health department had something called Merit Moms, and they brought this into the high schools and basically taught teen moms how to be mothers and how to keep a home, and everything that goes along with that huge life shift. And she invited me to be a part of this group, and I I mean, I was president of this, vice president of that. I mean, I was involved in everything. I was just on the news for being like a great kid and everything. And then Judy comes to me and asks me if I want to be a Merit Moms. I'm like, no, that's not, I'm not going to like step up into leadership into the teen mom club. Like not from any like point of I'm better than that, but just, I didn't want to make it about being a teen mom. Like for me, like a switch just flipped and it's like, okay, now I'm a mom.
Right.
I also happen to be a high school student. I also happen to be in way more of a committed relationship than I need to be at 16 years old. I'm also a daughter. I'm also a sister. I'm still Amber, and I'm not going to let this define me. So I just waddled around like I own the place. And I mean, not that it was easy. You know, I really had to overcome the shame quickly in order to be a good mom to my daughter, because she didn't ask for any of that.
How do you think that affected you as starting your business? Do you think that actually ended up strengthening you?
The stigma is certainly there, and no one asked me to resign from anything. I chose to because I felt like the decisions that I made and just it didn't allow for me to remain in those leadership roles. I felt like I took that away from myself. I don't know if it helped me start a business. I think I've always been a little entrepreneurial in spirit and very comfortable with risk. But what it did teach me is that I couldn't allow anybody else to define who I am. I had to choose that and then project that. And so again, at 16 years old, I didn't know any personal branding wasn't even a buzzword. It was called professional reputation, you know.
Right.
But I was learning as I was trying to hustle and pick up shifts and, you know, get a better job that I shouldn't have gotten because I had to drop out of college because it just wasn't working. And so a lot of those things, just trying to really figure myself out and how can I position myself in this really tough world with this stigma on me as well. And being young, but also being fairly savvy for my age. I just had all these things going against me. And I was like, all right, you know, we got to bring this. And so what does that look like? So I just started paying attention to what people responded to and why they praised me or why I got to show up at the Applebee's with my uniform on and pick up shifts, even though I wasn't scheduled, and, you know, to piss off everybody else that worked there. Why did my manager allow me to do that?
Right.
And I knew that work ethic was one of them. So that's kind of hard to beat when somebody's looking for somebody to employ. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for giving me that. But the other parts were things that I couldn't even articulate then. When I interact with people and I'm helping them with their personal brand or, you know, within the employer brand, I'm just trying to help them identify the highest and best use of the people who are their human capital. It's so much deeper for me because I had to do the hard work. And so when I connect with people now, it's from like this real gut place of like, no, you're freaking awesome. And here's why. Like, let me tell you your backstory that you just told me. Do you not see these connections and why this makes you the only person who can do this job or who can take on this project? And then they're like, wow. And if I didn't have like this, if I can do it, you can do it attitude. And if I didn't say like, look what I overcame, like whatever you got your wagon of experiences that you're dragging around in life, I can't even describe the joy that it brings me. And if I get to help people while I'm selfishly sucking up all the joy from it, then all the better.
Right. Yeah. You allowed that to be part of your story. And, you know, we're learning more and more, and you and I are obviously being a speaker, being very exposed, and that balance of what do you say, what do you not say? And what's funny about it is, unless you're in my very close inner circle or you're really good at math, people don't know I had a kid when I was 16. Yeah. You know, it's not like, you know, so it was like this moment for me. And I love that you're talking about with the personal branding, because honestly, that's what came through even in your copy on your website of, oh, here's who she is. You didn't feel the need to hide it or separate it or even use it as a lever. It was just, here's my story. Yeah. And I think that transparency, and has that transparency translated successfully for you in your business, do you feel?
Absolutely. I think, again, we live in this Pinterest perfect world. And, you know, the book that you read, The Bombshell Businesswoman, was written specifically for women because I just saw such a gaping hole of confidence among our people, ladies. And I just thought, you know, if I'm super real with them, then people have to trust me for me to get into their stuff. And so, yeah, I would say me being just pretty blunt about my life is part of why people trust me, because I don't have any wall up. I'm not like, oh, let me show you how fabulous my life is now. Because if people saw my life now and they saw where I lived and the kind of car that I drove and, you know, the fun that I get to have and the travel and all that kind of stuff, they'd just be like, oh, she's perfect. And, you know, she doesn't know what it's like to have it in a difficult way. And I'm like, nope, I worked my ass off for this. Overcoming a lot, and you can too. No matter if you're an entrepreneur or if it's a relationship issue or if you work for a company, like use whatever you have journeyed through in life to enhance why you are on this planet.
We will get back to our interview shortly after this word from our sponsor, Goodrich Publishing. At Goodrich Publishing, we believe everyone has a story that needs to be told. Have you considered writing your book? We're here to help you get that book in your hands in the most economic way possible. Find us on the web at goodrichpublishing.com. And now, back to our interview.
Talk about your book, because I love this book. The title is Bombshell Businesswoman, and you put it all out there, I think, in such a great way for women. And I think there's a lot of common afflictions that, you know, women have, you know, especially as we're in business and some of the things. What was your inspiration?
What do I share? What do I share that would be edifying and helpful to a bombshell businesswoman? And for everyone, I redefine the term bombshell to mean bold, brave, unwaveringly confident woman. So
I love that.
I just believe that if a woman turns heads, it's not because she's strikingly beautiful. I believe that a woman turns head because she knows who she is and where she fits in this world. And so I was like, let's just take that term back. So I as I was writing the book and processing things, that I'm like, oh, I already went to 8 years of therapy for all this. Like, why is all this bubbling up again? And it was because, like, I need to know what's edifying versus what's sensational. Right. What would help a woman versus what will just be a juicy read. And sifting through all that was really hard. And one of my mentors, Peggy Keel, I adore her. She like literally picked me up and took me to her therapist. And she got there and she was like, I have an appointment, but my friend's going to use it, and like walked me into her therapist and sat me down and went back and I was like, what's happening right now? And it was the best thing she could have ever done for me, because I needed support. I'd been supporting all these people and my business model was shifting. Like I had these 2 brands going on and sifting through old junk and knowing too that my daughter at that point was an adult, and now I'm putting her story on.
Yeah,
and
very
okay with her.
Right.
But still wanted to honor the fact that like she didn't ask for any of this to happen, and I'm about to make her very public. Yeah. It was just a lot to sort through. So my process was painful. It was hard.
I think you bring up a couple of really good points, and I want to just reiterate a few of them for our listeners. Is number one, being walked into a therapist's office, even though you feel like, okay, no, I dealt with this, but now it's coming back up. You know, we have a crisis in our country, I think, and in the world too, with mental health, and the stigma still to this day. And I think that idea of talking to someone, you know, opening the doors, talking to someone, and how healthy. I think also, you know, when you were talking about writing and you're bringing that stuff up, you know, and I always say that the act of writing is very cathartic. And when, you know, there's a big difference between if I'm writing a technical book versus if I'm writing a personal book. And if you'll notice that majority of my publications are technical. I'll start writing my personal stuff. And like you say, like you're reliving it. And it's like, okay, it's a process to work through that. It's a healthy process, but it's painful. And so, you know, congratulations to you for doing that and doing it in such an eloquent way and really recognizing that. So I think that was really cool. And acknowledging your daughter's role in this too, you know, because she is definitely part of the story. I love this definition. I love that you said you redefined bombshell, you know, because we hear that, especially for those of us that are in an older generation, you know, the bombshell, that's your pinup girls, right? This very sexy kind of view. And I love that you spun that and made it so powerful. Yeah. and this is a quote from your book that I love, a bombshell who is a single woman, on the other hand, is forever annoyed that instead of being asked about her business or countless successes, she is most often asked if she is seeing someone, ever going to settle down, or if she plans to have children. So very true statements in there. And how do you feel, are we still struggling with this as a society, that women are still being defined, especially single women, this way?
Yeah. So the working moms, they have their own guilt that we put on ourselves. And then I feel like that single professional women, or even any single woman, is this like just the go-to questions we're still doing? Because and again, these as you read that back, I was like, oh, that person like popped in my brain.
Right.
And she was wicked talented and doing all kinds of things. And for her age, I'm just like, oh my gosh, what the heck? You're so amazing. But she constantly was asked about like, oh, well, you better stop traveling so much or you're never going to meet somebody. And it's like, well, I didn't know that was my mission in life. I didn't know that was my highest and next priority. And so it just comes circled back to just the social media world that we live in, the Pinterest perfect world that we live in. And then you can layer that with some outdated ideas and cultural tendencies that we have, bias, unconscious bias. Like there's just so many layers. And I always make sure that I say, gentlemen, I am not your spokesperson. So I know that you have your stuff too. But this is what women deal with.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
and you can't escape it, whether, I could go on with lesbian friends and their plight. Women of color, I had the most amazing conversation with someone last week, and we were I just asked questions because I was like, are you comfortable with me asking you these things? Because like, I want to know.
Right.
And as a female and as a woman of color, she kind of had a double dose of just some pretty crazy stuff. So it doesn't matter what we look like or what our age is, or if we're married or we're not married, or if we, want to date men or we want to date women or we want to date everybody or whatever that looks like. We all have our pile that we have to deal with in this life. So again, I come back to only you can define who you are. Because if you're kicking it, waiting for everybody else to do it for you, you're going to be in a world of hurt.
Absolutely. Agreed. No, absolutely beautifully said. And like I say, your book is awesome. Highly recommend it. So I think we need to speak truth, and you do it in such a beautiful way that you are representing women out there. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
I think in a world of so much social media and the fake facade that we think we need to put on, it's nice to have somebody like yourself to actually write something about that's so true and can make you think like, oh my gosh, like I am definitely not living my true life in people's eyes, and I'm not being true to who I am. And I think it all kind of boils down to that. Like, are you being true to exactly who you are and who you want to be? Because it doesn't matter what your mom wants you to be or what your friends want you. It doesn't matter. Like, if you're not happy and not living the truth that you have, like, why even do it? In my opinion, like you're just kind of wasting your life at that point. So I love everything, obviously, that we've been talking about because it hits home for us.
Definitely.
But I kind of want to go to a different avenue.
Okay.
So I may not be a teen mom like you were, but I like food, and it sounds like so do you. So you have labeled yourself as a hot wing snob, and I need to know more about this because I love hot wings. So please tell me how you got to that.
So every Tuesday night, we call my tribe, we get together at, it sounds way fancier than it is, but it's country club, and we get hot wings and usually bourbon or wine or whatever. And we, even if like if no one gets hot wings, we still call it hot wing night. And what I've realized is, I love hot wings. I've always loved hot wings. I also have celiac disease, so I can't, hot wings is very easy. Like, yep, that is gluten-free as long as you don't put some ridiculous seasoning on it.
Right.
So that's been part of it. I'm high protein. I lift weights. And so what I have realized about hot wings is the sauce obviously matters, or not, because not everybody likes some sauce. Dry rub is always an option, but the size, there's team drummies and there's team flats. Okay. So I like mine mixed. I want both,
I'm a
but
mix.
You like mixed?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a drummy.
You're a drummy person? I prefer drummies, but I also know that I'm high maintenance enough having celiac disease that I'm like, I'll just take whatever you put on my plate. Thanks. But I have a girlfriend that likes all flats, and I'm like, that's so much work. So I just feel like there's more to pull it apart, especially if they're small. And then you can overcook them. There's a difference between if you're going to bake them, then deep fry them, or deep fry them, then bake them, or not deep fry them at all, or not bake them at all. I mean, there's just so many different ways that you can do this. I'd like to say that my country club they know how to do it. They know how to make hot wings. And when we travel, I'm just kind of like the resident hot wing snob, you know? And I'm a total foodie.
So what you're saying from this is that size does matter.
It does 1000%. Making it that needs to go in the show notes. Amber says, and they could be too big too, because that's gnarly. Like when you have like this big,
exactly. Yeah, you don't want them too big either. Like size actually does matter.
It does. I think if I had to choose between a drummy or what do you call it, a flatty?
A flat.
A flat. I would be a flat, I think, because on the drummy you can get like the tendons and stuff. Like I feel like the flats, they're easier to eat, but they're messier. I think they're messier. Yeah. But I don't care.
I think part of living in the South is like I can drive like an eighth of a mile and like pet a cow and be like, you're gonna make such a good steak. Like, you know, I mean, it's just part of our culture, you know. So anytime anything like real happens like that, I'm like, oh, I'd like to honor you this moment, little chicken that provided this delicious meal of hot wings for me. Thank you for being doused in Fred's hot sauce and getting in my belly.
I love it. So
you did what you were raised to do. You did what you were put on this planet to do. Thank you.
You need to send us, your country club. So next time we're in Nashville.
Yeah, Nashville.
Yeah. Well, you guys better come visit me. Seriously.
Yeah, you have to bring us in. Oh, Amber, this has been so fun. Yes. It's been so good getting to know you. And we love strong women that are kicking ass and taking names. And that's obviously you. Yeah.
And I get y'all.
You just absolute joy. So thank you so much for being on our show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's a privilege.
We want to thank you for joining us for this episode of See How I Did That. And we want to thank our sponsor, Goodrich Publishing. For more on our sponsor, Goodrich Publishing, you can find them at goodrichpublishing.com. Thank you, and we'll see you next week for our next episode of See How I Did That.